What's up?
Oh, hey, Grant. I don't suppose you got about 30 minutes to talk about cars.
If I'm being completely honest, probably got days.
Let me guess. Brake job?
You guessed it.
Classic breakdown. I love that intro.
It's good. It's so us.
Welcome back, guys, to the breakdown brought to you by the Get Out and Drive podcast, which is fueled by AMD. My name is Jason, Olde Carr Guy car, and the fella sitting over here next to me.
Well, great, Tommy. I'm Straight Six Fan, found on YouTube, but yeah, happy to be part of the crew, the clan, the three amigos, you might say, of the Get Out and Drive podcast network and the breakdown. So I think one of the ground rules we set for the breakdown was to try as best we can to steer away from EV conversation. And we made it, this is our fourth episode, and we failed. So, but Jason, why don't you unveil what we're set out to talk about tonight?
Yeah, before I do that, I do want to thank Ryan, who is kind of behind the scenes. He's going to be the one controlling all the switching and the cameras and the this and that. We've also got Joanne and John over in the chat, who are going to be helping moderating this live stream for us. So one of the big things that we wanted to do, and that I think that we're all kind of on the same playing field, is the opportunity to have a base model truck that doesn't cost a fortune. Like right now, you go out and you buy a base model F-150, GMC, Chevy, Ram. You're looking at in the $50,000 range and up in Canadian dollars. In the US, it's probably about $10,000 less, but still, you can't find a base model truck that's cheap. So what we're looking at is trying to pinpoint, how do we get into a sub $30,000 truck that the vehicle is usable, it's accessorizable, if that's a word, and the fact that, we can actually use this thing no matter where you are for whatever it is that you want to do. And the Slate truck, which is what you're seeing on the screen there right now, is a brand new startup company who thought, we can do this. We can get this truck that's going to give us, $20,000 starting price, US dollars, and it's bare bones, but can be accessorized based on wheels, doors. Sorry, not doors, but hatchbacks, rear seats, infotainment, whatever you want to do. This thing has every option available to it, and it's going to be like a Lego set. Grant, I think as we look at this is the Ford Ranger from 1991 reincarnated as this electric two-wheel drive Slate truck. What do you think?
Well, first off, if accessorizable is not a word, then you were all here at the ground floor for when it became a word. So I like it. I think history will show that Jason Carr invented the word accessorizable. It just rolls. It just
Slate
rolls
truck, Slate
yeah.
company. Yeah, hit me up.
Yeah. No, but I think that's that's the bigger point. Like, sure, where I was trying to poke fun at us because the last round of Car Guy and Six Fan Show, it seemed like we always somehow got on the topic of EVs, and it got lazy and boring and tired, and so that was my big shtick. But the bigger picture here is what you're talking about: is how do you get back to basics, entry level pickup, something that's not going to cost you an arm and leg. And okay, so by the way, it just so happens to be an EV, but like I said, I think we can kind of remove that from the conversation. It really is. That's not the most important part. Like one of the big three would be, if they were smart, I think they would rip this idea off and do it with a gas motor. I think it's more about, if things go in cycles or pendulums swing from one far into the other, like I think it's just an important time in automotive history. And I think it will show, well, two things will happen, right? It'll either Ford Eds will crash and burn and be a flop, or it'll be a point in time where it's like we hit the reset button and it went back to basics and became something. To me, it's like, this is the closest we've ever gotten back to the Model T, right? It's Henry Ford's like famous for saying, you can get it in any color as long as it's black or as long as it's slate in this instance. But no, I think that's what this truck represents. And honestly, I'm really kind of excited about it.
Yeah, and I think part of what Slate is trying to do here is they're banking on a lot of things. So there's a lot of manufacturers out there over the years who have brought out a loss leader in the form of a base model, something or other that, you go and you look at and you say, oh, I can, back in 1991, okay, we got the stats here in front of me. Back in 1991, I can go get a base two-wheel drive Ford Ranger that in 1991's dollars was around $8,800. But you go to the dealership and look for that Ford Ranger, it probably did not exist. If they did, they had one, they probably wouldn't sell it to you, and they'd probably upgrade you to the one that had air conditioning or the one that had automatic transmission. So there's a lot of things that Slate, I think, is banking on, and one of them is simply the biggest one is the price point. The fact that, yes, we can outfit a quote-unquote truck because it's built as a body on frame, and the fact that we can get you into this thing relatively cheap by today's dollars. You go back to 1991, that $8,800 Ford Ranger is the equivalent of about $21,000 in today's money, USD. So if we look at the Slate, that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to get you into this thing cheap. Is it going to be base? Yes. It's going to be so base that it's not even going to come with infotainment. Why? Because you guys have already got it. My screen is disappearing my phone. I'll put it in front of my face. You've already got it in your hand. So what you'll be able to do is plug this thing in. There's your infotainment. If you want to bring a Bluetooth speaker, that's on you. If you want to upgrade, there's going to be upgrade accessories. It's so accessorizable, use it again, that it's going to make your head spin. So when you do that, of course, the price goes up, right? You want this thing to have a tonneau cover, extra $100. You want this thing to have a back seat with a roof over it and a roll cage, couple $1,000. You want this thing to have bigger, more desirable looking custom wheels, a couple $1,000. Everything's going to add up, and they're banking on the fact that you're not going to walk in off the street and buy this quote unquote $20,000 electric truck.
And I see John mentions in the chat that it looks like a Ford Bronco, and that honestly, and even the Bronco Sport platform, honestly, that's my only knock on it, is that the styling is very reminiscent. I actually like the new Bronco styling, but just the fact that it feels a little, hey, you didn't necessarily come up with your own design. It feels very kissing cousin like, if you will. That's really my only knock. It's not that the styling's bad. It's just I kind of wanted this thing, since it is so unique in premise and idea, to also be unique in design. I'm an architect. For those who don't know, I'm an architect as my day job, and so I'm a design dork. And we all do. The saying we have is the best form of flattery is imitation, right? Ripping something off. So there's some of that too. But I think the other thing, as you mentioned, Jason, like the Bluetooth speaker thing, like you might laugh about that, but when you look at the website, you can upgrade to a speaker system, but it literally looks like a Bluetooth speaker that like clicks into your attached. And so, I mean, honestly, like if we're all being honest, a lot of us with our project cars, I mean, you see, like I always think of Jacob Ross Davis is one of the ones that comes to mind, like on Power Tour in the Green Hornet. That's his sound system. The radio doesn't work for whatever reason. So like we've all probably likely done it anyways. So I think that's actually smart. Why provide, like, this just a cost cutting measure to give you the $20,000 entry level truck? That's what you got to do.
Well, and again, it's about the loss leader. We want to hook you. We want to hook you in with the price, but when you get there, you're going to look at this thing and say, "Man, that thing looks plain." Maybe I need that bigger bumper in the front, or maybe I need that chrome grille, or maybe I need those better wheels. When everything is all said and done, you're not going to walk out of there. I guarantee it. One guy might walk in there, write that check for the 20 grand plus his taxes and transfers and all that BS and drive this thing away for the base price. But we all look at this thing and we say, yeah, there's some Ford this or that into it. But what I like about it is that regardless of what you think it looks like, it's not a bad looking truck. It doesn't have necessarily EV written all over it to think, it doesn't have to look like a dumpster to be an EV. It can look like a regular truck to look like an EV, and that's and again, yes, it was a bit of a knock against a Cybertruck, but there's people out there who absolutely love those shapes and angles and curves and the stainless steel of the Cybertruck. For 150 grand, if that's your jam, you go ahead. But guess what? 20 grand is my jam, and I would buy this truck. The problem is it's too bland. So where do they come up with that? It's in the accessories. A couple of the things that they also are trying to do to minimize cost is basically, if you want wheels, there may not be optional wheels. It might be a decal or a wrap that you put on over top of the wheels that's there. Same thing with the bumpers. The bumpers are supposed to be, fixable. You just detach them with a few minor hand tools that you may have in your garage already. Same thing with the body panels. You get into an accident and crack a fender, same thing. You can go ahead and just undo a few screws, clip that fender back on there. Boom. Bob's your uncle. You're fixed. Insurance costs are going to be down. So there's a lot of advantages to this slate truck. Yeah, it's only a 2-seater in its configuration as a truck, but you do have the option to add 2 more seats in the bed, as well as putting a roll cage and a SUV style topper over it. And if you guys go out and watch the video from Rich Rebuilds, they get a really good tour of what this thing does and the capabilities. So for instance, if you look closely, I don't know, Ryan, if you can bring the picture that you've got there, bring it up as full screen so folks can actually take a better look at it. But the rear, the back of the cab, the back of the door is detachable from the roof, so that when you add the SUV topper onto it, that piece actually bolts on over top of the tailgate and is reusable. The door handles on the inside where you close the doors, they're the same left and right. So rather than having to make a left-hand door handle and a right-hand door handle, it's the same one. They're mounted the same way on both doors. There's a lot of that similarity in this truck to cut costs. And if you look at the fenders, you'll see on all 4 corners, there's like little holes or little dots. Those are fasteners. We're going back to Saturn days where they had the replaceable panels. It's cheaper to make a panel out of plastic than it is out of metal. Grant, what are some of the styling cues aside from it looking Ford-esque? But what are some of the styling cues that you're taking away from this truck?
Well, and before I get full blown into that, I do want to come back to. I see John has a good question and Will's Wheels has a good question in the chat. But I think so. Go back to the Cybertruck, and you say the boxy look, those lines. Like I don't like those. But as a designer, as an architect, like I often say, like I struggle with when I try to do simple. It comes across as plain, but like an Apple store, when they do simple, it comes across elegant. And I think what the Slate truck did a good job. The Cybertruck tried to do simple, but it looks like it's missing something. Like it needs one more crease or something. And like they're just some way the body lines don't come together. Slate did simple here, and I think they did simple well. I think I mean, I was kind of wanting to throw the joke out there. You think 40 years from now, they'll be referring to the first gen as the square body slates? I mean, like there's something to the beauty of the square lines and even that simple body line there, coming off the grill down the side. That's, we're accustomed to that for generations on generations of trucks. That's what the Cybertruck's missing. Slate truck has it. But going to John's question, he says, can you order one with specific parts or does the dealer have to install them? And that's actually where I would challenge you, Jason. You said nobody's probably ever going to walk off the lot with just the base model. It's my understanding that you can do it both ways. You can say, hey, these are the accessories when I pick it up, I want these on the truck. But it's my understanding that that parts catalog, you should be able to go to a Slate dealer and buy anything that's one of those accessories, and you can install it yourself. And so I actually think there might be some people out there that are like, hey, I know I don't have my vision yet, but I'm going to buy the Slate truck. We're going to drive it home. I'm going to take a few more weeks or months to make my mind up, and over time, start adding that bumper, starting adding that accessory. But do I have that right? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I'm going to get Ryan to chime in here too, because he watched the same video that I did, and I don't want to misspeak, and maybe he can help to say exactly how you're going to order your truck. Are you going to go to the dealership and just pick the truck and then go and throw all the accessories on it before you buy it, or are you going to order it in that way? Ryan, what did you take away from that video when
I think honestly the whole idea was you can be a baller and trick it out when you buy it, or you can do it over the course of many years after the fact. As long as the catalog still exists to buy the parts, which it seems like they're going to be, you should be able to add on for the life of the vehicle, basically, or longer. And like I said earlier in the chat, you can also 3D print a lot of these add-ons. They're going to have their own 3D print catalog, which you'll be able to avail of as an owner. You'll be able to 3D print your cup holders and a few other things that you necessarily don't have to buy yourself.
It's almost like my mind went to the Mr. Potato Head of trucks. You can storm in the back and rearrange it as you want. But no, Ryan, while we have you though, I don't know what, I was on their website today and I was trying to go to the about page or whatever. It really wasn't there. But am I right though? Isn't this a spinoff? Isn't this partly under the umbrella of Amazon as well?
I think Jeff just gave it a bunch of money and said, figure it out. More as an angel investor than, say, Rivian, where he's actually like an active owner.
Okay.
And if we go back to the comments and we talk a little bit about, like Will was asking, any idea what the range will be while towing or load in the bed? So one thing that we do know for sure is the range in its base, or what do they call it? Clean slate or blank slate version, is not going to be great. It's going to be around 150 miles ish. But again, we don't know because these trucks simply aren't in production to the point where we'll know what the range is going to be until they're built and they're testing. So if you think of it as 150 miles with nothing in it except for you start adding resistance and weight and all this stuff to it, I'm sure it's going to go down. But until we see those actual, I guess you don't call them EPA numbers, but whatever the rating is on those things, we'll know once this thing gets closer to production and sales that, it's like when Ram came out with this new inline twin turbo 6-cylinder Hurricane engine, they weren't giving it any or very many details on it, other than it was going to be X number of horsepower and it was supposed to be more fuel efficient than the Hemi and all this BS. And when it came out, it was more power, but it was not more efficient. And once they got it in the truck, they realized, oh, this thing doesn't get great gas mileage at all. Gobs of power. So I think it's to be seen. We're still in the early stages of the Slate truck. I think that they've got lots of pre-order going on. They're actually bringing people in like Rich Rebuilds to put the hands on these things and sit in them and look at them, touch them, feel them, smell them, so to speak. And once we see people like Doug DeMuro and TFL Trucks and Straight Six Fan out there being able to drive these things.
Oh, sorry, that was my Doug DeMuro.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying you were going to get with trucks.
Or wait, I guess, or was I thinking Scotty who's the other big, anyway, never mind.
Well, if you were talking Scotty Kilmer, you certainly made a fool of yourself. Anyway, kidding. That's the whole point, is until we start seeing these things on the road in testing situations by reporters and journalists and all this stuff, like Ryan's putting in our chat here, he's saying for most people, 150 mile is totally acceptable because you're traveling from home, you're running around your town, your community, doing this or that, you're landscaping, you're painting, whatever you're doing with this thing. and you're coming back home that day. So, you've got 75 miles one way, 75 miles back. For most people, who drives more than that in a day? I don't even drive to work. Grant, I think you had mentioned to me before, you're probably less than 20 miles altogether.
Oh no, it's a little under 60 miles round trip. It's
okay,
like
so round trip, 30 miles there, 30 miles back. But again, something like this is probably acceptable for a majority of people who may be thinking of using this mode of transportation.
Well, my other thought is the reason we got to this point and this is why I think it's a turning point or a special part of automotive history is, okay, let's talk about how we led up to this point. Is there's all of the big 3 4-door trucks out there, right? So people like myself, it's like to appeal to a crowd of people like myself. Like, I can't afford to buy a truck and a car. I need a backseat for a car seat. But every so often, I do need the utility of a truck to go pick up, 8 bags of mulch or a 4x8 sheet of plywood. Like, there's a real need. But like I said, can't justify owning 2 vehicles. But I think we're going to like flip it on its end and get back to where we were, where a lot of people just held on to the single cab long bed truck. That was the farm truck or hand me down from grandpa or dad or whatever. And that was your 3rd vehicle. And you only drove it when you went to get the 8 bags of mulch, the 4x8 sheet of plywood, a couple bags of cement or whatever. So 150 mile range unloaded. Like, I feel like that's, and then, okay, let's pause there for a second. Meanwhile, in the world of all the 4-door trucks that their bed stays empty 95% of the time, the other demographic that's out there is the people that are convinced, the whole world's going to burn down if I don't buy an EV. So the Prius kind of started everything. Of course, it was hybrid, but then we got into, the Teslas and all the full EVs. And so I feel like the Slate truck is really taking those 2 ideologies and merging them. And it's like, okay, well, what if you just had a truck that's not going to burn any gas? And let's be real, it's going to stay parked in your driveway. It's affordable. It's cheap. You can afford to have this. And then you have the utility when you need it, but then you can go get your whatever car that's more fuel efficient for your daily commute. And you don't need to drive the truck to work every day. You don't need to, get the 17 miles per gallon with just me driving to work with 5 empty seats, around me and a half ton and 4-wheel drive and all that stuff. I think, to me, I kind of think that's what the Slate is.
So we've talked a lot about the truck. We talked a lot about the styling. One thing that we didn't talk a lot about, other than saying what the base price was going to be, was what these things are actually going to sell for sticker price, because Slate is banking on government rebates to be able to advertise this $20,000 price tag. You're not going to be able to walk into your dealership and pay 20 grand for this truck. It's likely going to be north of 25,000 if I had to guess. And if there is any form of government rebate, now the one big beautiful act thing that passed a couple of weeks ago or whatever in the US eliminated federal funding on EV purchases. So they've lost that, and now you're into state funding. What are the states going to offer? Well, California's probably going to still offer a huge one. Probably, Ryan, what did you say? $7,000.
Yeah,
so
7, I think.
So if this thing is going to have a MSRP of around, we'll say 25, and you get the rebate on that, okay, you end up getting a truck for a pretty good deal. In Canada, we're not likely going to see this Slate truck, unfortunately. But if we did, our rebates come off of the retail price. Right? In the US, from what I understand, according to Ryan and his research, says that you get a tax credit at the end of the year when you file your taxes on the EV purchase. So you're still going to pay the $25,000 for this truck, plus your taxes, plus your excise, plus your fees and all that BS. And you're not going to get that rebate till you file your taxes. You're going to get a tax credit. So in Canada, if this thing is $25,000 and we get a $5,000 tax credit, that comes off right at the dealership when you're signing the papers. That's how it worked here. It's too bad that you guys, are losing the federal side of that for your EVs. But either way, This thing is, we're thinking is going to have a retail price of around 25, 27, maybe. So, you can kind of bank on that. So yeah, we led into this show talking about a $20,000 truck, and, can it happen? Clearly it cannot. Dodge, I keep saying Dodge, Ram, pardon me.
Hey, I'm following.
Ram has said they can't build a $40,000 truck, even in its base model. They just can't do it. They can't do that and make money because they spoke specifically about the lost leader. Yes, if we made one that was $45,000, nobody would buy it because nobody wants a truck anymore, according to Ram, with crank windows and no AC and no this and no that and no. And in some places, you're mandated to have certain safety features like backup cameras, lane keep assist, what's that, cruise control, adaptive cruise control, all this different stuff that is being mandated into new vehicles, that you can't buy a base work truck for 40 grand and throw all this BS at it and expect it to be 40. You just can't do it. So Slate Truck is trying to come in here with, having some of this stuff, and where it's an EV, I think it falls into a different category when it comes to all that type of crap that you may or may not need on your car to help bring that price. I don't know how it works. I really don't. But either way, you're not going to find a brand new anything out there for less than 50 grand in a truck today, unless you're looking for something like this. Grant, aside from the fact that you would have to choose two vehicles, would the Slate Truck be something you would consider in the event that you're looking for that third vehicle that would help you with that stuff that you're talking about?
I think short answer is no. The long answer is, in a little different circumstance, maybe yes. With having just bought 19 acres of land, this doesn't feel like the appropriate truck for 19 acres of land, right? Like being able to maybe go pick up a piece of farm equipment, a small piece of farm equipment, like it seems like finding a first gen Dodge, 3/4 ton would probably be more my thing, like with a 360 in it or something with 4-wheel drive. So if something got stuck, I can drive across my land and go, pull it out or whatever. But if I wasn't that type of landowner, I think there would be an opportunity. I was on their website today, and I saw the like one of the first things was pre-order yours for $50, or like get on the list for $50. I'm like, man, $50, that's not that much. Like that did cross my mind. Like, I don't know, like I don't cross that road later when we get there. Like maybe, but yeah, as Will mentions though too, without the government rebates, Ford Maverick is also within the same. You're probably within 5% price tag of one another. But yeah, no, I don't think I could do it. But yeah, that's through the lens of being a bigger landowner. Now, I will say one other thing about their website real quick before we move on. What I thought was really cool was they did a great job. They did like a silhouette comparison. So they did like Chevy Silverado and showed the Slate Truck as in scale as it related to a new 4-door Chevy Silverado. The next one was a Ford Maverick, showed how big it was. And then they showed a 1985 Toyota SR5 Tacoma, and the Slate Truck is slightly bigger than that. So again, this is where I'll circle back around to. If the Big Three is smart, I think they could rip off the same idea, maybe do it through the hybrid route, or the small direct fuel injection, basically your EcoBoost style. What's that called? What's that form of fuel injection called? But anyway, and bring back nameplates like the Ford Courier or the what was the Ram 50. The
Chevy Love.
Yeah, I think the Big Three would be smart to rip off the idea, and again, the way they could produce it and keep costs down would be just like Slate's doing. Is you're just printing the same truck out time after time after time, you're not accessorizing anything. So your assembly line doesn't have to do anything, doesn't have to follow a build sheet, doesn't have to do anything different. Let the end user be the one who customizes it and tacks on the things that they feel like they really need.
Yeah, and if I had to answer that question myself, I think, the slate truck would probably do 90% of anything I ever needed in a truck to do. My problem is I have a large parking lot that needs to be plowed. I could hire that out. Okay. But at the cost of doing that versus the cost of owning my own pickup and doing it myself, you'd have to outweigh that so that you could start eliminating excuses. I've got a car trailer that I could go and, that I go and I pull vehicles all the time with, and my Ford F-150 does that just fine. And until we see what the numbers are for the slate truck to be able to go do that, I'm guessing I can't go to Prince Edward Island, which is 350 kilometers or 200 miles away, to go pick up a car and come home. I'm not going to have that range. So I think the thing is that for 90% of it's going to be perfect for me because, I'm going to go to the lumberyard. I'm going to grab a few boards. I'm going to go to the gravel pit. I'm going to grab some sand. I'm going to go move some furniture. I'm going to haul some crap, car part, whatever you think. And it could be a great parts runner for my business. The problem is, to go and fork out that kind of money. I'm cheap, right? At 20 grand or even at $27,000, that's US money. So even if that was Canadian money, 27 times 1.35, you're up into the $36,000 range already, Canadian dollars, plus tax, which is 15% where I live. You add that on there, you're up well over 40 grand for this $27,000 truck. It's not justifiable for me. So would I own one? In the perfect world, maybe. But as you said, Grant, in my lifestyle, the way it is today, probably not.
Yeah, I think if I put it through the lens of my current setting, I live in a townhome, 2-car garage, 2-bathroom, 2-bedroom. It takes me 20 minutes to mow my lawn with a push mower. I think the slate truck would fit into this lifestyle extremely well. I mean, I feel like of all the things I've done, with project cars, like, I feel like you would feel confident being able to pick up a used small block fill in the blank and throw it in the back of the bed. Like you bought it on Marketplace within 60 miles from home, 120 miles out or 60 miles out, 60 miles back, you're at 120 all in, like maybe the extra load on the way back. You get a little range anxiety. I'm getting close, but you're probably still close enough to home. They're like, okay, all right, well, I can call some friends, see if I can plug in for, 20 minutes to get the rest of the way home or something.
Yeah, and I think that this slate truck is going to suit the needs of a large majority of people who are simply they A, need a truck, B, they don't want to spend big bucks, and C, they don't need that great big 4x4 4-door Hemi blah 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 for 60,000-70,000 bucks. This is going to suit a lot of people's need, just like the Ford Maverick did when it came out and is still doing to this day. And there is no other domestic manufacturer out there doing what Maverick is doing to the market. Slate truck might just cut into their profits, cut into their sales a little bit. And I think that if the other the other two of the big three, Ram and Chevrolet, if they kind of decided they were going to get into this game, they're going to cut into Ford's cut there really, really quick. I believe there's a market for it. Cheap trucks. If you got to go small to get cheap, so be it. Like I said, these trucks are actually a majority of people would be just fine using a slate truck for exactly what they're doing with it, dropping their kids off at the hockey rink or at school or soccer prep, whatever it happens to be. You don't need 7,000 pounds of V8 power to do that.
I think there's also an underrated demographic out there. This is more Ford Maverick than slate truck, but I just noticed the last 2 times going to church, this older woman at my church has a Maverick, and I was actually trying to convince my parents into getting a Maverick. They're both set over 70 now. And, you know, once you get that age, a lot of the conversation is like getting in and out of a vehicle. They want something that's more like level, not that they have to like get down into and try to pull themselves back up out of. And something the size of like a Maverick is great for that. And then I also think of that same demographic. I can picture them going to like a nursery and picking up, again, like the bag of mulch thing, where they can drive up somewhere. Someone can load that in the back of their vehicle, and you don't have to smell the mulch. Like if you had an SUV, you don't have to like it's not that, you know, that wet, humid, like really gross, like you don't have to smell any of that. And then you just have to figure out how you get, you know, niece, nephew, son, grandson, or whatever, come over to pull that bag out of the back of your truck. I really do think the Maverick, and maybe in this case the Slate truck, is suited for a demographic like that as well. And you know, there's a lot of people at that age that do buy brand new vehicles, whereas a lot of younger people don't.
Well, guys, I think this is a good spot to kind of put a pin in this. I think we broke down the Slate truck very well. If there's a point that we didn't make that you think that we should have, be sure to leave it down in the comment section down below. We'll be checking the comments after this goes up. And, you know, it's always good to see, you know, some people here in the chat asking those questions and seeing if this is exactly what it is that they want this truck to be, or whatever it is we have to be talking about. Just a reminder that the Breakdown is a family member to the Get Out and Drive podcast. If you guys don't listen to the Get Out and Drive podcast or are following us right here on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like this video. We always are going to be doing these once a month. It's usually the first Thursday of the month. Well, we goofed here in July. Things happen. Life happens, and we're just having fun when we do this, so we try not to take it too seriously. Also, make sure you're following Grant, Straight Six Fan, on his channel. Olde Carr Guy right here on mine. I will leave those links down in the description box down below. Guys, I end all of my videos with stay focused on the windshield, not the rear view mirror. Let's see you in the next Breakdown episode. Grant, any final remarks that you wanted to hit on before we leave?
No, just piggybacking on what you said. It not only was there a point we didn't make, but if there was some spin-off idea from this conversation, something you wanted to see us break down further in a different episode, that's maybe a close topic to this, but a little bit different, by all means, give us suggestions. We're open to that. But yeah, we will be seeing you first Thursday in August, 7:30 Central. Hope you join.
We'll see you then.
What's up?
Oh, hey, Grant. I don't suppose you got about 30 minutes to talk about cars.
If I'm being completely honest, probably got days.
Let me guess. Brake job?
You guessed it.
Classic breakdown.
Breakdown.